Hey, everybody. Thanks for being with me again today for Grace with Paul Gray. Last few days, and for a few more coming up, we're talking about this concept of being woke. W-O-K-E. Being woke. Being aware. Knowing the truth. Being awakened to what's already true in the unseen and eternal realm. And I use the example of Saul, who became the Apostle Paul, who didn't know God, didn't believe Jesus was the real deal, was totally opposed to him. Saul, by his own words, was the greatest sinner of his day and age. This was 2,000 years ago. And then one day, God appeared to him, Jesus appeared to him, and Papa revealed to Saul that Jesus had always been in Saul, and that God had known him and included him and loved him since before creation, since before he was born in his mother's womb, and all that time he was the greatest sinner in the world. Saul became woke that day. He was awakened to the truth. And I'm doing a little list of in my opinion, the all-time greatest woke things. Yesterday we talked about number one on my list is becoming woke to the fact that God is in you. And he did that. Had nothing to do with you or your vote or your asking him to come in or anything. Becoming woke, becoming aware, being awakened to the fact that it's all God and he's already done it, not only for you but for everybody. The second all-time woke thing on my list is being aware of, being woke to the truth that God the Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are one. They are in you and you're in them. Jesus isn't here and Papa somewhere else and maybe the Holy Spirit shows up sometime. No, they are in you and they are one in everything they do. All right, what would be God's part in our becoming woke? I think God's part is waking us up. And he does that by revelation. It's like when you have a young kid and they got to get up to go to school, and you set the alarm for them. You tell them when it's time to get up. You set the alarm so that they'll wake up. Maybe they go back to sleep, and then you wake them up. Sometimes you have to do that 2 or 3 different times. And we get frustrated. We get impatient when we have to do that with our kids. But God, who is love, is always patient. Long suffering is the old King James word. So it's God's part to wake us up. He does that by revelation, and he knows when is the right time. We can't come up with that. We can't determine that. We don't know his thoughts, his reasonings. We do know that he works all things out for the good, so we just have to trust him with that. His part is revealing to us. Our part is just being there, seeing what he believes, and then believing what he shows us. All right, here's in my book the number 3 all-time woke. Being woke or awakened or aware of the fact that God is unconditional love, period. That God is unconditional love without conditions. Everything God is and says and thinks and does flows from God's unconditional love. Now, I found that many of us, and I certainly was one of these, many of us have used the term unconditional love. Some of us know the Greek word, the koinonia Greek word agape, which meant at the time and still does divine unconditional love, love without conditions. We've used that and we've said, oh yeah, God's love is unconditional. But then, of course, many of us have bought into the lies of religion that his unconditional love has all kinds of conditions. So the third biggest thing to me is becoming woke to the fact that there are absolutely no conditions to God's love. None. Absolutely none. There are no time limits. There are no requirements. There's nothing expected from us in return. It's all one way. There's absolutely nothing. Now, I've had friends who've said, well, that just can't be. There has to be something. God, there has to be something. We have to do this, we have to do that. No, All of those things are man-made ideas, are trying to create God in our image because we believe there would have to be conditions for love. Sometimes I think we don't want to give unconditional love because we think we'll be taken advantage of by somebody. Well, you know, we think the same is true with God. God can't possibly give us unconditional love because, that gives people a license to sin. God will just be taken advantage of. Well, God doesn't think that way. God doesn't live that way. He doesn't act that way. So the number 3 all-time woke in my list is becoming woke to the fact, to the truth, that God is unconditional love. Period. So here's my question to you today and to myself. Are you woke to the fact that God truly is unconditional love? Love with no conditions. Think about that. See you next time. Thanks, everybody.